All right, welcome back. Today's guest is the most fascinating woman in the entire world, Mary Ruddick. She went from being bedridden with chronic illness when she was younger to vibrantly healthy, globetrotting all across the world to the most remote locations, often ones that are very difficult to get to and often very dangerous, while helping people all around the world heal from illness. But the funny thing is, if you were to meet Mary in person, you would probably think she's either a model or a fashion designer because she looks like a model and dresses like a fashion designer. You would not think that she's doing these travels that are not for the faint of heart. Um, well, thank you for coming on, Mary. That was a quick little intro. I don't know if you want to tell people what
Thank
you
you so much.
actually
That was
do.
so flattering. That was so flattering. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And I'm sorry, I missed your question. What did you
Oh,
ask?
do you want to tell people what you actually do?
Oh, I specialize in the microbiome.
Okay.
So I have graduate degrees in the microbiome and in human nutrition, and I work with some of the hardest cases that don't tend to respond even to what others do in the natural health world. And so I really work with people to rebuild things. I train practitioners and lots lots of fun stuff.
Amazing. So, Mary, your personal journey from chronic illness to vibrant health is one that has inspired many around the world. Can you take us back to what your life looked like at your lowest point and what sparked the shift towards healing? What was the turning point, and tell us how your life then contrasts your life now?
Oh, that's such a good question. And no one's asked it like that. It's actually really hard to put myself back into what it was like because it was a place of zero options, right? Uh, Especially at the worst stage of the illness, when I was like fully bedbound at my parents, my kidneys were failing. And, all doctors for years were like, you have very little time. And and to be honest, if this isn't a contrast to how I function now, death was like the most appealing option because there was no out and the suffering was so intense with the physical pain from the nerve damage and all of that. So it was as dark can be. It's almost like a cloud comes over. It's brought on by the physical stuff. So any emotional darkness was in reaction to not being able to function. But it's a real cloud. And then it was like a light came in. And it was actually the certainty that we had gone to all the places, right? And and it wasn't just certainty for me, it was for my family. We had very little time left, according to the doctors,
Mm.
uh, and and so that kind of cracked something open, almost like an egg, where we were like, let's look at other things. What do we have to lose? And for some reason, that brought in an incredible ray of light in possibility. And that changed everything. Life became very good after that. And there were a lot of things that came into that. But what it was like to be sick, I mean, it's literally worse than you can imagine hell. And I imagine the listeners are going through that as well. Because to one, be so misunderstood if you look kind of normal, aside from maybe being too thin or something else.
Mm.
Uh, but to have chronic pain, like severe pain, not mild, not a headache, day in and day out, hour in and hour out, and to have an unpredictable body that you can't rely on, it's I can't imagine a worse nightmare. So it clouds things and it's just wildly different. I hope I didn't answer that too vague.
Yeah, no, no. And
Hard thing to
you
conceptualize.
were you were quite young though when you got
Yeah.
sick as well.
Yeah, I was 18 to 30. Hmm.
Wow. And you were also bedridden for a number of years.
Yeah. Yeah, most of that. Hmm.
So your life now, can you tell us how it contrasts what it looks like
Well,
then?
I'll tell you today. So this morning I woke up and I took Phoenix. Well, first I did a face dunk in ice. I love dunking my face in a bowl of ice water. It
Never
feels so
done that.
highly recommended. It's better
Okay.
than, it's better than the ice bath. And then I took Phoenix on a beautiful walk through the forest for about an hour. It's my dog, for those who don't know. And then I went to tango. I take private tango lessons almost every morning, and I am
How
like
fun.
I'm like obsessed. It's so much fun. Yeah, yes. So, I have like all this vitality now and sunshine in my life, and I've had that for a long time, and it's been very lucky.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
So we'll get more into your travels. You've
Mhm.
spent years visiting, living with, and learning from indigenous cultures all around the globe, and there's something almost like almost magical, really powerful about the wisdom they carry when it comes to health. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from these traditional cultures, and how has that ancient wisdom reshaped the way you think about health and healing?
Uh, Community, more than anything. Really community. And I know when I bring this one up, it's a tough one because we can't always choose, but they have such tight communities and they're very much there for each other and celebrating with each other
Mm,
and playing with each other constantly.
praying?
Yeah, yeah, they do. It's like when we were 10, and we'd be like, I'm gonna play this instrument, and then you play that instrument, and then we all switch, and everyone does it naturally. It's everything is participation. So whether it's singing or dancing or playing instruments or going hunting, there's a sense of play and lightness and joy to it. So in the way that we had when we were younger, and but with that, a wisdom. So it's like they're incredibly wise, like our elders, with that playfulness, and it's a really beautiful mix. So I think my biggest takeaway right now, and it changes through the years, but my biggest takeaway right now is that perfect health is our birthright on a level that we cannot imagine, that
Mm,
can be attained multiple ways, but that we are not isolated animals like koalas or sloths, right? There's animals that are antisocial, that live
mm,
alone, and they get physically with their cytokines, their immune markers, very stressed if they're
okay.
touched much.
Hmm,
Humans are communal. We're like elephants and other animals that are communal, dogs as well. And
dolphins.
dolphins, definitely. And we actually, our immune markers go through the roof. They're horrific when we're alone.
Hmm,
And so I would say one of the biggest takeaways is that we have to find a way to create that, even if it's doing something like a dance class,
hmm.
right? So where you're getting eye contact and touch and having fun, and also there for each other in all ways, through like the bad and the good. We're really not meant to go and process things on our own and be strong on our own and be whole on our own. Communal animals are whole together.
That's so fascinating because I feel like the culture today does promote more of like a solitary, like you'll, I don't know, I often hear it where it's like people need to be like have alone time or like go in solitude. um,
Constantly,
yeah.
constantly. Like if you're not in a relationship, well, you need to figure out love on your own.
Yeah.
Never been the case in human history,
So
ever.
fascinating.
Yes, yes, exactly. Mhm.
Okay. So I would love if you can tell us if you have any wild travel stories where you thought maybe you were going to die
So
or not
many,
make
like
it.
there's endless, endless. Oh, really? Quite endless, especially on the ways in and out to the tribes, a lot. Um, I mean, Ethiopia, I don't think is one that I've told before. That one was pretty fun. But in general, and sometimes I actually won't register it. So there's this one trip that I led for a film crew, and it was all these guys. It was a small film crew because I can't take many people in. But, we got pulled over and almost like semi-kidnapped. But I was very used to that at the time. So I was not stressed by that at all. And
Wow.
they all hated that trip because of that experience. And I think of that trip as one of the best. I had the best time. So I have a skewed take. I have a skewed take. But I would say Ethiopia was pretty intense because they had the Civil War. The Civil War had just ended. Then they opened the gate. So I came in. I had been trying to get down to the Omo Valley for a long time, where there's just these exquisite tribes that are still living, some of them very traditionally and some not. And they were getting forced off their land at the time. So I think, yeah, I'd only seen a warring tribe once until I got to Ethiopia.
A
And that
war
was,
tribe?
yeah, like a tribe that was fighting. I never see
Okay.
fighting. It's
Okay.
like surprising. But
Yeah.
it's not surprising after you see what I've seen. People are very content. You don't fight or cause problems when you're content. But the people, the tribes were getting pushed off their lands because of water rights. The president was causing a lot of issues. And so they were going into villages and really like wiping out and killing whole villages in order
Wow.
to keep the land and the water. And this was brand new and it was very political. And at the same time, the Civil War started to kick back up and the genocide up in the north.
Hmm.
And so all the airports started shutting down. the internet turned off, of course. And
Yeesh.
yeah, and so very quickly, I was calling all my very international, like spy-like friends, like,
Yeah.
can you get me out of the country, please?
Dang.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Send help. And but no, that was actually quite scary because it was so different than the other ones. And I want to say Ethiopia is a really beautiful country. So this doesn't speak for Ethiopia at all. In fact, it's one of the more traditional places in that it's the only country in all of Africa that wasn't colonized, and there's fascinating cultures throughout and very different cultures throughout. And it's rather more safe than some of the countries I go to. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, for perspective, like you can have a phone out
Hmm.
and get in danger for showing that you have a phone. You can have your
Really
down in the car. There's just all sorts of things you can do there that you cannot do in other countries. And
interesting.
yeah, so I want to say this is very unique because of the political situation and nothing to do with Ethiopia itself. This could happen
Hmm.
anywhere. But maybe not the next part. But we're very quickly and regularly surrounded by machete men,
Oh
like
my
in the middle of
God.
nowhere, in the
That,
middle of nowhere. And it looked exactly like Sierra Leone when the war
oh my
started. Everyone
gosh.
was carrying, yeah, it got dicey. And there were quite a few adventures. We finally made it to like this hotel that was shut down. There was no food. Of course, there was no water. There were
Wow.
bugs in the bed, but it was a bed. So we can't complain. And eventually got out. But Ethiopia was definitely pretty dicey. Like the at that time, the children, even like the little kids, were making their sticks and then painting them like guns.
Oh my,
So like everyone was armored, and you dress different when you travel. You can't wear anything with metal. You can't bring bags and things like that, but like purses or grocery shopping bags, it makes you a target. But
okay.
you still look, you know,
Like obviously not from
you're
there.
not from there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So how many people were you with when this happens? Like how many people were you traveling with?
Yeah, I was with four, and the driver, wonderful driver, poor man, he didn't tell us until the end, but his village had just been fully wiped out by
Oh
one of the
my
tribes. They were,
gosh.
yeah, he and his wife hid in the jungle, his pregnant wife, and
Oh,
every single other person from the village was killed. They were the only ones to survive. She gave birth to their child the next day, and then he was driving, and to to make
yeah.
money coming home, and I was like, oh my God.
That's just a whole nother level of living that I can never fathom.
Yes, yes. Yes, yeah, I was very happy to leave, but I have to say I would really love to go back. I do really love Ethiopia. So
Yeah,
that
that
was
sounds like one of many trips that are just not for the faint of heart.
no, I would say most are not. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks glamorous from the outside, but I will tell you the glamorous or the exciting part is when you survive. It's when it's exciting.
Yeah. I feel like you should do like an under the ground like travel tips to these countries. Like I'm sure there's stuff that you don't want to say like on air because you'll give away like so many things.
Oh, yes.
But
I need to keep my ways or I won't be able to function. Yes, if
yeah, exactly. But like
yeah,
I feel like there has to be a way that you should distill this information without like jeopardizing what you do.
That's true. There's
Yeah.
some things I can give out. There's definitely some things that I can give out, but there are some that I will guard by my chest because
Mm,
I need to keep using them.
okay.
Definitely.
I
Definitely.
understand.
Yes.
Okay. So, in your line of work, I would imagine there's like a lot of unhealthy habits and thought patterns that people might have, whether it's emotional eating, chronic stress, negative self talk. So many people feel stuck in patterns that don't actually serve them.
Yeah.
What have you found to be the most effective ways to gently break them out of those unhealthy loops, whether they're physical or mental?
Well, may I give you first the one that I see the most?
Absolutely.
The one I see the most, especially here in America, Phoenix is chiming in. The one I see the most the one I see the most in America is basing your worth off of what you do. Yeah. Let me get my dog.
Okay. He's so cute. Hi, Phoenix. Who's the cutie?
Boy, sorry about that. Um,
No, it's my pleasure.
When I see the most, especially here, is that we don't have a purpose if we're not we're he.
Hmm.
That our purpose is what we do. And so when people become ill or if they don't want to do the classic life track here, they feel inadequate. And there's a lot of self-judgment and self-shame. So I think one of the most powerful things that I've seen is to really evaluate if what you're thinking is true. It may be true for your culture, but it may be the complete opposite for other cultures. And there's a lot of grace in that. Um, I always like to rest our hats on that our purpose, our greatest purpose, and I could be very wrong, but I really do think our greatest purpose is presence.
Mm.
I don't think there's a greater gift that you can give to yourself and to others than to be present. And our goal-oriented, work-based system doesn't foster that naturally. So I think that one, because it's not fostered naturally here, is one of the most powerful that we can bring in.
That's a beautiful answer. And I have to say, you are like one of the like top people that I've ever met in my life that has such presence. Like your presence is just so like strongly felt.
We need more of it, you know?
Totally.
We need to sit with each other and like actually see each other and hear each other and in the fun and also in the serious and always. Yeah.
I agree. So, one of the striking things about traditional cultures is that they often don't follow strict health rules, no calorie counting, no apps, yet they remain vibrant and well. Um, how do these cultures maintain such strong health without the rigidity we often see in modern wellness culture?
I think in doing what they've done traditionally. So tradition really, if you break it down, is just what's worked.
Mm,
Yeah, it's just what's worked. It's a meritocracy,
mm,
people watch what works and what doesn't, and by the time you get 2,000 years in, you've got it pretty nailed. And the especially for that region. The other thing is that they have the right bonding from childhood. So infants, especially infants and toddlers, bond with their parents differently and with society differently than
mm,
we allow for in the States, except for exceptional families. So they really need a lot of nurturing from the females and from the mom of the family. It could be the aunts. And from the dads, they need a lot of play in order to oxytocin bond, which helps to get the parasympathetic nervous system going, right? And that works for their whole life. So that
mm,
gives them a really good set point for being calm and satisfied, right? And calm leads to regulated cortisol, regulated sleep cycles, regulated circadian, which means regulated digestion, because all
mm,
of those hormones work together. And then they also are born naturally. They're given the perfect human microbiome, which we are all meant to get, that we have drastically meddled with over the last 150 years, and especially the last 50. So they have all of the right microbes for regulating their metabolism, for regulating their weight, for detoxing things, right? People talk a lot about heavy metals and these kind of things, but there's bacteria that are meant to break those things down or pull them out.
mm,
And if we don't have them, it puts us at a disadvantage. Mold, the same thing. And and so they get this beautiful microbiome that produces their feel-good chemicals, but also breaks down their pathogens. They don't have to think about it. Plus, when your microbiome is balanced, you're not hungry. And then, of course, they're eating in season. They're eating foods that feed the cells, so not things that are constantly stressing them. They get the right light system, so they go to bed with the sunset and wake up early. They have lots of rest.
mm.
Rest is a foreign concept in our
Yeah,
culture. It's a sin, actually. And I just want to say, the Jewish really have it right with the Sabbath. Humans need a rest day. We need to decompress, and they naturally decompress, right? So,
that's amazing. That's actually a good segue into my next question. So, you've seen firsthand how children are raised in traditional societies, and it's very different than how most of us grew up in the West. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll ask it anyway. What are some of the key differences in how traditional cultures raise children? Like and what impact does that have on their long-term health and emotional well-being?
yeah, that's a really good question. One of the things that is very different in traditional societies with child rearing is that the child is always given the feeling of safety and that there are always familiar faces around it. It's
Mm,
not to a daycare.
Mm,
It's not going in and out of new places. It's not meeting 100 people.
hmm,
It's really getting very close contact with ones that it knows well. And so it creates a feeling of safety for the child. And you can measure that like in the nervous system with parasympathetic. Also, they're trusted. So,
hmm,
it's not like diapers that are used, and so they potty train very quickly. They also get the children working very young. And
hmm.
when I say working, I mean contributing. We really, as a social species, we bond a lot through vasopressin. And so while that's the main, it's really, for those of you who are familiar with these things, it's really the main male bonding hormone, but females do it as well in terms of familial structures.
Hmm,
And you get that through working together, whether you're
hmm,
cleaning a garage or playing a game or building something. And so in the traditional societies, what I see is basically as soon as the child can stand, they're usually going to have a knife in their hand and they're going to be like carving things or pretending they're like playing at
Okay.
being an adult. So they'll have like a little bow and arrow. It depends by culture. They're basically learning how to be little adults. It's adorable. And so they feel like they're contributing, right? And this is something I had in my family, which was really lovely. When you grow up in a big family, you can't the parents don't do everything for you. Everyone has their own roles and their own jobs. And for me, I don't want to speak for my siblings. None of us liked the chores, but I will say, like, we didn't really consider not doing them because it was like part of being part of the family. Everyone does. It wasn't like the parents are doing everything for the children, like I see a lot of now, or the parents feeling bad that the children need more downtime. So, like, they're never asked to do dishes and things like that.
Mm,
So, there's a real consistency to roles in the society. And we can confuse a lot of things, right? We often put our current culture, we can project it on some of these cultures. Sure. But when we look at humans as a whole, uh, we need guidelines. We really need guidelines to relax. So if I knew that my job was to clean the living room and my bathroom, like the upstairs bathroom that the kids use, and my bedroom every single day, or every week, or I knew what those guidelines were, that was relaxing because there was never any pushback. It didn't change
mm.
through years. I am so sorry. I don't know why I'm starting.
It's totally okay. It doesn't sound
Usually doesn't
awful on my
start
end.
during a podcast, but it's happening. The So, so whether you have rather strict parents or easygoing parents, often the easygoing actually creates more stress for the child
Hmm,
because it's a wiggly line. Like they don't know what they're supposed to do. You see this in dog training as well.
yeah.
With dogs, yeah, they need their clear yes and no's. So that's one thing that I see that is really different than what we do. Another, I mean, I can go on about this a lot, but I'd like to at least bring up two more.
Okay.
Yeah. One is that the children don't get to decide anything. No one is asking them
Right.
anything, right? They're learning how to become part of the society, not trying to bend the society to meet them. And that is an important lesson, right? It makes us very unhappy in our souls when we are expecting others to perform as we want instead
Mm,
of meeting society where it's at. Uh, and then one of the very important ones is that they start to cultivate competence and confidence as soon as those kids can walk.
hmm,
So they'll put them in challenging situations, whether it's a temazcal, which is a kind of really intense sauna, or out in the cold in Mongolia, or riding horses before anyone here does. You know,
wow.
a saddle and an
Yeah.
unbroken horse. So yeah, but the adults are there, and so the child feels the fear or the challenge of it, but also feels the safety from around the parameter. And then facing that fear and becoming confident in that, they then trust themselves from a very young age. And so these are some of the most confident people you'll ever meet, not brazen, not without hubris, or not with hubris, but like quietly confident. That really beautiful human character trait. And so they get that from a tiny age. We're lucky to get it, when we're 60, and they get it
Yeah.
from.
It's like
So
an understated confidence.
yeah, so that's a really big thing because when you have that and you've personally experienced going through hard things and getting yourself out of it or getting through it, you don't really become afraid of hard things. And that sets you up for a very good mental health state. going forward.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes in the Western world, we often try to make it very easy for the children. And it sounds like it's the opposite in some of these indigenous cultures.
Yes,
I
and
feel
in a
like
loving way.
intentionally, and
Mhm.
in what?
In a very loving way.
Okay.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing to hear. Okay. So you often talk about the healing power of connection, and you alluded to it earlier. How and how these relationships are just as important as food and movement. Why do you think this is, and what makes you believe this? And how can we begin to like nurture these kinds of relationships into our life?
So we've had just hundreds of studies on our hormonal system, really tens of thousands, but in the way that I'm going to talk about. Our hormonal system is fascinating. It reacts to right now. So while you can do diets or supplements or take hormones, really you can shift your hormones in this moment by how you sit, how you breathe, how you interact, what your posture is, all of the things. And so in the traditional societies, you have a set family structure. So you have very tight bonding through oxytocin for the women, vasopressin for the men. The men typically have to work extremely hard, sometimes more than 10 years before they can even look at a female.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not even dating yet. Right.
Dang.
Yeah. No, they have to work for it. And when a male, someone born a male, so a genuine male, works for something, that is how he bonds. So the more he works, the more bonded he is. So
Mm,
that gets those men from like my parents' generation that will like go to war and will not let anyone even side eye their wife or their children, right? That's a vasopressin bond. How much of that do you see today?
not
It's not very often, right? Because we're treating everyone as if we get to decide how our bodies work in nature, and as if there's not a written script, and
mm,
we can outthink it, and that our philosophy should count more or politics should count more than what the body actually needs, right? So for females in our modern society, it's almost I don't know how the female body could fully relax hormonally. I'm not talking about intellectually or therapy talk, okay?
mm,
Yeah, or how, if you feel relaxed, but actually, when you test the hormones, if a female can get to that state of full relaxation for most, because the societal structure is not there to make a woman feel safe. And a woman's hormones require safety. So let me define safety because it's not what most people think. Uh, Safety means shelter, food, never having to think about those things, rest. So, not the things that we are thinking about, not walking at the street at 2 a.m. Uh,
mm.
yes. And consistency,
Okay.
which we don't have much consistency or safety nets
Okay.
today, right? So, the transient family structures, the transient dating, that tends to set up a high stress profile for the female. Then we tend to have more male hormones right now because of how we are interacting. We play male sports, we're goal oriented, that's what's rewarded.
Mhm.
Uh, we are rewarded on our outputs and what we achieve and what we produce. These produce male hormones, which are very good for men. And I'm not saying that we can't, but those are not how you get oxytocin, which is what we need to relax and sleep and not have perimenopause and PMS and all those things.
Fascinating. So it sounds like the way to cultivate this is from like a very young age in like family structure and also on a societal level where a lot of things just need to change.
Yeah, I think we'll have to come up with some creative solutions for it because I don't see our culture suddenly going back. And we have to factor in that we are dealing with a population of mentally ill people,
Mm,
physically ill people. And so what I tend to hear people think of with traditional societies is, oh, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of power balance and these kind of things. But I don't see those in any of the traditional societies I go to. I see quite the opposite. So we're kind of projecting our mental illness and all of that on what used to exist very
right.
well. So I think we'd have to come up with some creative solutions. I don't know, Golden Girls houses or something, things that are just more stable and a lot of saving of finances. And yes, I think there's always ways around it. There's always solutions to be had, but what we're doing right now is not one of them.
Yeah. And I would imagine it could be different for everybody too, the solutions.
As long as it gets at the hormones that produce safety for a
Mm,
female and reward work and um, make a man feel appreciated. Yeah, there's certain things that have to happen. Mhm.
okay. Excellent. So many people don't realize that unresolved emotional pain can manifest physically, and there's more research and studies coming out showing that the deep connection between our emotions and physical health. Can you talk about how unresolved emotions or trauma might show up in the body and how we might begin to release it?
I I think it's actually not what has been proposed at all. The proposals like body keeps the score and all of these things don't factor in the fact that many people can go through the same trauma together, and only some are traumatized
Mm,
and some aren't.
hmm
Uh, there's a reason for that. There's a biochemical reason for that, as well as the some of the ones that I've talked about before. Like I've talked about how you need to have certain microbes in your body to be able to produce the feel-good chemicals in order to handle those situations, right? So some are on the microbiome level. But since we've been speaking about community, I'm going to bring up something that I have not talked about before. Not publicly. I do it in my keynotes sometimes if I'm talking about hormones, but we often talk about the love hormone of oxytocin. And we also, as a society, often talk about truth and authenticity and uh, how important that is for being healthy and healing
hmm
and being whole. But if you tell your truth to a society that does not want to hear it, you actually break the oxytocin bond.
Interesting.
Yes. So oxytocin is what makes you a tribe
Hmm,
and it gives you groupthink. So
hmm,
when I go, yeah. So when I go to these different regions, even if they live in peace, like take, I think Kilimanjaro is a good example because there's 27 different tribes there and they live in harmony. They eat differently, but they would never associate, like if you're from one tribe, you would never associate with the other.
hmm,
Even though you're not violent with each other, that's like, no, we don't do that. We don't eat like
huh,
that, dress like that. That's it. That's having the oxytocin and vasopressin bond to our tribe, which
okay.
makes it your tribe, right? So if you think about through history, truth tellers have not been rewarded. If you think about most of the people that books are written about or that documentaries are made about, these are usually people that are telling a very inconvenient truth, and they very often get crucified for it in one way or another, right? Because the society will turn against you when you have a truth that doesn't fit with their narrative. So truth can be a problem, and trauma is not is I don't find to be the cause of illness at all. If it was trauma, everyone would have it.
Hmm, that's true, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So a lot of it has to do with us not handling the onset of chronic illness. And I also think it really speaks to incurious medicine,
Hmm,
practitioners that are not curious.
hmm,
Very easy as a family member or as a practitioner to say, well, you didn't do it right. You didn't do it long enough. You must have some unresolved trauma. This is your fault, right? But we didn't have these issues until our microbiome, our circadian rhythm, and our community bonds were broken.
hmm,
So if we bring back in the circadian rhythms, the community bonds, and if we can save the microbiome in time, which I'm not convinced, but I'm hopeful, uh, then traumas aren't traumas. They're just something that happened, right? So I really, I really don't like the blaming of illness on trauma at all. I think it's very mean. I think it actually victimizes the people that need our help the most and makes them more isolated when what they're needing is validation and care, right? If someone hears your story, you don't need to repeat it. If
mm,
someone validates your story, you don't need to live in it.
hmm
If you're constantly told that that didn't happen or that you're making that up or like that couldn't happen or that person is a good person, what are you talking about? Uh, then you're going to keep fighting for yourself, even if it's silently, which then breaks your oxytocin bond. And when
hmm,
a human doesn't have their oxytocin bond to their tribe, chronic stress, immune suppression, we have these figures,
Mm.
right? It's all been studied. So then you see even more of a decline. And that's pretty important. So I'm not saying that people haven't healed themselves by going in through their minds. Of course they have, and that's amazing, and we should all use that. That's awesome. Like the fact that our body will make hormones in response to what we're thinking about is incredible, and that is a tool we can use. But I really am, I hate to go against something, but I'm really against the idea that these things cause the illness. Because for most people I've worked with, they're some of the most honestly, emotionally sturdy people you will ever meet. They're handling things that would utterly break people like 10 years ago. And they're
Wow.
doing it with grace. And they're some of the most sick people you can ever meet. So they're not in this victim mindset. They've been victimized. It is victimizing to go through what they've been through, but they're not claiming that and making an identity of it. They're doing the
Mm.
opposite, right? They're barely telling people what they're going through. I have to break it out of them. And honestly, had I not been sick before, I don't think I could, you know, because
That's
they
such
get
a good point.
yeah, because you get a bad response. It doesn't matter if someone is telling. I have a very good friend whose scientific lab was utterly ruined when they
Hmm.
accidentally happened upon some data that they weren't even looking for,
Hmm.
right? And then their name and their credentials were just ruined.
Hmm.
When we tell inconvenient truths, it is not rewarding. We don't get rewarded for being sick or for knowing something we shouldn't or for telling the truth about, I don't know, someone who molested you. I don't know, but whatever it is, uh, being truthful is important, but authentic, you have to bring that to people that are kind and empathetic. And we're getting less and less empathetic as we lose our oxytocin producing bacteria. And as we raise children, because we've been raising them as if you can just do whatever and they're going to be fine. But our hormonal system doesn't work that way. So,
Well, I love
yeah.
hearing that because it sounds so empowering for so many people.
Yes. I think I just see people be so hard on themselves. And, I see people go through the medical system and they do have something that is diagnosable and eventually it gets diagnosed.
Hmm.
But they go through like 100 doctors before that, all being told they're making it up. And
Right. Right.
so I think when we further from a society say, I'll just read the book, the body keeps the score, it's just really mean. It's like really
Yeah.
mean.
The
Yes.
the
Yeah.
thought that comes to my mind, and tell me if this is like accurate and if it resonates with you, is like, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit too, is like something happens to a dog, let's say, and they shake it off and they just don't live in that moment and they're just like fine and cuddly the next moment. And you're saying like in a healthy individual, that's kind of what we should be doing, is like not reliving these past traumas, is just like, in theory, shaking it off and like moving on to our, happy self.
Okay, so that brings up something. So, there's TRE, which is fabulous. So I don't discourage doing all the exercises and things to get rid of this stuff because actually you have more to get rid of if
Mm.
you're being gaslit through whatever you're going through, right? It's like actually that's the bigger trauma. But
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm a witnesser here, but I think so.
Yeah, you would know best.
I don't know, but that's definitely what I've seen, at least in this sector. But uh, you want to shake it off, but do you know what I haven't seen in any of the cultures? I haven't seen any cultures that don't dance every day.
Hmm.
And what is dancing but shaking it off?
Interesting.
Can't think when you dance. You're
Yeah.
not grumpy when you dance. You literally can't hold a scowl while you dance. Well, maybe, okay, maybe like in war dancing,
Yeah.
otherwise. So,
Theatrical dancing.
yeah, and it's communal so people don't feel alone.
Mm,
Right? And it's fun and it makes
totally.
you feel good chemicals. So I think a lot of the things that were just naturally in our society, like, you live around your family, so you have your aunts and cousins and other people to help with the kids and your marriage stays forever and you're not abusive to each other or mean to each other because you're both satisfied and making your feel good chemicals and you have the right kind of bonds through
Mm,
oxytocin, oxytocin. Aside from those things, the eating schedules, the light schedules, the dancing is a huge missing piece. Like we are not having fun right now. Like, our culture does not have a lot of fun. Like I don't know how much you've traveled overseas, but Overseas, no one, I don't see people talk the way we do. And that's not a dig on Americans because we have other things that are great. But
Yeah.
if I get anyone to visit me in any of these places, they are excusing the time off from work as saying, but I'll be working on the trip. You
Wait,
know?
what do you mean?
I mean, like if someone's taking a vacation or
Oh,
they're going
in
on
in
a tribal,
America.
yes, in America. Like if you're my friend and I'm telling you I'm going to Tanzania, I'll be like, oh, but it's for work, or
Yeah,
I'm going to be working. I'm still going to do like little emails, you know.
totally.
It's never just like hanging out, having fun and relaxing. And I think,
1000%.
yeah, and illness and everything is so serious.
Yeah.
It's so serious. Like we need, and it's really hard to bring in that lightness of being when you're suffering and when you're in pain. But we all need it, not just those who are sick. Like we need more fun.
Yeah.
Fun for fun's sake.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fun for fun's sake. Yes. Not
Totally. I totally
fair.
agree. I was
Yeah.
working with this woman from the UK, and her away message was like, out of the office for a month, you will not hear from me. I'll be sipping like whatever drink they drink and like eating crumpets. And I was like, I absolutely love this reply. I can totally tell she's not American born or bred.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
I give a slow clap to that.
me too.
Yeah.
Okay. So stress is so normalized in modern life, we barely even notice it anymore, but it does take a toll on our health. What are some of the sneaky ways stress shows up in the body, and how can people start to unravel it?
Elevated heart rate is a really
Mm,
yeah, because you can get great live heart rate meters now that you can wear, and so if you're above, say, a 60, doing anything, you're not relaxed, so you
hmm,
can't fight yourself, right, into thinking, no, I'm totally happy. That doesn't work. And HRV is a really excellent measurement, and it's HRV is heart rate variability for those who aren't familiar, and that's the balance of the parasympathetic with the sympathetic nervous system. So the higher your HRV, the more resilient you are to stress, the less likely you are to be traumatized by trauma, actually.
amazing.
Yes. Yeah, so that one. And then finally your deep sleep percentage and your REM percentage. Those are the things that I would be really looking at. Because cortisol is really dogged on, but cortisol we need. We don't wake up without it. And I mean, look at our grocery stores. It's all energy drinks and
Yeah.
coffee. I just had a friend from Poland visiting, and he wanted to go to a cafe, like one of the diners in America, the very American places. So I
Yeah.
found one. I found one, and I took him there, and he had ordered a coffee, and he got his drink, and it was like this big, and he looked. The expression on his face, I could not stop crying. I was crying from laughter. Like I could not get it to stop because he had never seen anything like it, right? We are needing constant caffeines and we wouldn't need that if our cortisol was balanced. So we want that cortisol in the morning because that wakes us up with our dopamine, our serotonin, and then that should trigger the melatonin at night to get us into a deep sleep. So we're getting plenty of REM, plenty of deep sleep. But most people aren't sleeping well and they're not
Hmm,
waking up refreshed. And then their HRV starts to tank. And when that happens, usually the heart rate goes up. It's not the case in all conditions, but in general, humans, the heart rate goes up. And that leads you into a chronic state of stress where you're pumping cortisol. Now, this is much worse for women. Men actually get rewards from cortisol, whereas we don't get so many.
okay.
They have a very steady hormonal state, so their liver has a very steady job. Whereas for us ladies, we are clearing different hormones every single day. So our
Okay.
liver, when it sees an overabundance of cortisol, it just like puts up its feet. It's like, no, you know, yeah, those 2,000 emails, I will not.
Yeah.
That's saying. And then that over a long period of time leads to the symptoms that we see in perimenopause. It's a big driver, that along with low stomach mucin, of the hormonal issues we're seeing in our girls and teenagers and women. So it's a big cascade, but cortisol isn't the bad guy. The issue is that it's not regulated. For
Okay.
women to regulate cortisol, we need a lot of oxytocin, like a lot of it. That's our decompression hormone. And men, they need a very different hormone for that.
Hmm,
And they actually do get rewards from cortisol. So although they'll get burnout too, it takes them a lot longer.
okay.
Yeah.
So ultimately, cortisol in the morning is a good thing for both men and female.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Cortisol throughout the day, definitely not ideal for females, but men can tolerate it and
Yeah.
do okay with it.
Yeah, and we can for periods, like for a year or two. But
Okay.
what we're doing right now is from the time we're about like 8 all the way up.
Okay.
So that's problematic. Yeah.
What would you say are some ways for females to increase their oxytocin throughout the day?
Cuddles, puppies, eye contact, literally. Yeah, it's like snuggles and nurturing is how we get
Okay.
oxytocin. Or a lot of orgasms. That will do it for us too. Yeah, it doesn't do it for men, but it does it for us.
Interesting.
Yeah, they'll get a little bit, but not like we do. They get different rewards, but yeah, oxytocin is really made from nurturing something that we love, and it's a live thing. So it's either like a baby or a dog or someone in our family. Um, long hugs, long eye contact, not like stalker style, not weird, but like long eye contact, you blink, but
Yes.
that will create oxytocin. So there's different ways to get it, but most of them are that way. And then for women, like you have to watch the oxytocin bond a little bit because we bond just by being around people regularly.
Hmm.
Men don't do that.
Hmm.
So if you're casually dating someone and you go in just like, I'm not going to get serious with this
Yeah.
guy. We've all seen those relationships.
Right.
And then
Right.
3, 6 months later, she's like desperately in love and like, why don't you want to be with me? And he's like, what? That's the oxytocin. So you actually have to watch who you hang out with. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
because you will bond over time.
Wise advice, Mary.
Thank you. Tell all your friends. It's
I will.
important. Yes.
Okay. So, in a world full of screens, schedules, processed everything, staying healthy in the Western modern world can feel like swimming upstream. What are
Yes.
some of the realistic steps people can take to protect and nourish their health
That email
while
away.
living?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Go ahead.
Oh, while living in the modern world.
That email away message was brilliant. I,
Okay.
I have one too. It's just always on there. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, no, I highly recommend those because, and I won't spend much time on this, but email is a huge issue
Huh.
because it is anyone in the world can monopolize your time if you let it.
Mm,
Right? There used to be like ways that you got to know someone, and instead you can open your email and it feels like all of these responsibilities, but they're really not your responsibilities just because someone wants something.
right.
You have to have pretty strong boundaries, and that's not like a thing for women usually. If they have healthy female hormones, boundaries are not. That's very like masculine,
They
actually.
they want to help people is like
They
what
want to
you're
help
saying.
people. That's
Yeah.
right. That's it
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, if they've got their healthy hormones, yes. So that's one. Another would be to carve out real time. I can tell you what I've found, and I don't know if this would apply for everyone, but I've really found having hard no's in certain areas where you don't explain them. So like a day a week where you don't tell people it's like your fun day or your rest day, but when people ask you if you want to do something on that day, it's just, oh, I'm booked. I can't that day, right? And same thing with mornings. Our bodies feel very safe with patterns. So, one of the best things that you can do to bring in some of the cycles that bring on physical safety for the body, right? Not emotional, but physical, which is honestly, I think, more important in terms of
Mm.
the hormones from what I've seen, is routine. And so, all these morning routine bros, uh, we love you guys. But that's a masculine body to do the same thing every single day. But I do find with all the hecticness that we have in our society, the different sleep times, the different eat times, the rotating relationships, the moving around the world, all these things that actually for females to have a steady morning routine is pretty ideal right now, because at least that gives them the feeling of the morning. Now, I wouldn't do it so harsh. Like,
Okay.
I wouldn't be like pumping iron in the gym. I really wouldn't. I would do things like you get up, maybe you do like yoga or go for a walk. You do the same thing in the same order. You do journaling, you read, you do things that are fun. I used to always bring art into my morning routine before I started traveling, so I would paint every morning,
That's so
or
fun.
so. Yeah, so you do the same thing at the same time, and you eat breakfast at the same time, and so your body doesn't feel like it's at risk because when this is a really funny, I think it's really interesting, but our human bodies, like our nervous system, feels very stressed, like we're at war when we have constant change.
Okay.
all the time. So it's constantly on alert, which wears the person down and can lead to more trauma response, right? So you want to have a steady, at least for the morning. We can't always control the rest of the day, but that also lets you relax about the rest of the day, right? And so you do it in a fun way, but in a way that you're proud of yourself. Another, I would say, is really live on a fraction of what you make so that you're not stressed and living paycheck to paycheck. And that means cutting back on so many things. And I know that's not something that everyone can do now. The economic state right now is very different. So I don't say that in a way for anyone to feel guilt or shame or like they're not doing enough. I mean it that when you can, you really want to live in a cash-based system, meaning you don't take on debt.
Mm-hmm.
And you live on a fraction of what you make so that you can save for times like these or for illness and other things so that you're not in a state of panic that you have to be doing all these things. Otherwise, you don't have shelter over your head, right? That's pretty important.
Yeah, I heard you mention that on I think it's the Culture Apothecary
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
And she asked you like what's something, you would recommend, and you're like, you wouldn't expect this, but I would say like get out of debt. And I was like, that's such a good answer. Like it does take such a psychological toll if you're in debt, and if you're not, frees up so much space.
Yeah. And most Americans are in debt,
Yeah.
and it's not anyone's fault. I mean, they give us credit cards when we turn 18. It's crazy. Sure. Like you're supposed to know. But if you can learn old world budgeting, like from the 1800s, it'll go a long way. You'll feel very relaxed and safe and secure, even in a society that doesn't provide that for you, which for females is very important.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you do use credit cards, just use it for the points and like
Oh
pay
yes,
it off
I
every
mean,
month.
I
Yeah,
definitely use the
exactly.
points. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
totally. Such good answers, Mary. Okay, so that will conclude like the health and travel and what you learned from tribe stuff. And now it's time for the fun questions.
Fire away.
Okay, so the first question is, do you believe in a higher power, Mary?
Absolutely. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think the world of problems and difficulty and struggle is like a thin sliver of the eggshell of reality. And the
Hmm,
world is very, very beautiful and powerful beyond it. Yeah.
amazing. So you worked all over the world, you lived in different countries,
Mhm.
and you lived with people all over the world, traveled with people all over the world, and often people who are very different from, our friends here and family here in the Western world. What is the most fascinating thing you learned about people?
And the tribes are outside of the tribes.
Can we do both?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me think about it. It's a really good question. And it's really hard because I've met so many amazing people and I've had so many insights and I've been shocked in a good way so many times. I think within the tribes, it would be uh, that there's a sense, at least one, that I think we all have, but it's not cultivated in our culture, and that I see in the tribes, so that they navigate the world in incredible safety and grace. Whether it's hunting barefoot at night with their children in the Amazon and not having a single bullet ant bite or spider bite or snake bite, despite them being everywhere, um, to to this beautiful knowing, and of course that comes from their experience of abundance, of food is here always. You don't have to store it. You don't have to plan. There's always food tomorrow, so you can eat it today. Uh, I think that would be for the tribes. And outside of the tribes, I would almost go with synchronicity. There's like a beautiful synchronicity. I've been asked a lot about how I got into some of the regions that I got into because they can, you have to build relationships over long periods of time, and they're not places you can just take a tour to. Uh, almost all of them, if I really think back, happened through beautiful and hilarious synchronicities over and over and over again, and just kind of like following that path of synchronicities in a really fun, playful way. Uh, and I found that not that this was a strategy, this is more on reflection, that led to really, like truly just blessed adventures that even when risk came in, I was safe. And the people that came across my path were always somehow good. I could have gotten to so many more situations than people do. And I think the surprising thing about humans is that at least in my travels, this has not always been true, but at least in my travels, uh, a Pollyanna attitude was actually the correct one. That people are very good and they're not malicious and they're really friendly and they're very warm and welcoming. And that's not always true in our society. Ladies, when you're dating, don't do that. But obviously, but men either. But in general, yeah, in my travels, it was very, very lucky. And I now, all these people are in my heart and I'm in theirs and we talk regularly, especially the ones on outside of the tribes. And uh, people are very warm if you know how to crack into that egg. Yeah, and very good. I'd say that.
That's beautiful to hear. So when you say like not here, you mean like you're more talking about like the non-Western world, right?
Yeah, yes, in
Okay.
general. I still find that for the most part, but I think as we start to mess with the microbiome more and people, there's more people that are in scarcity, a true scarcity, like their finances are really bad in a culture where you require enormous finances. I mean, it is very expensive here
Mm,
in some countries. And so it can put you in a desperate state where you don't have a family structure that's near you. A lot of people live thousands of miles from their family. You may not have a wife or a husband, so you're not really like rooted. It's a bit different in cultures that are unrooted. Plus, there's a lot of mental disease, a lot of microbiome imbalance. So people don't have all the bonding. But even honestly, in most of the world, the bonding has not been an issue at all. It's very quick
hmm,
and lovely and good. Even to where like uh, even when I've thought I was in a bad situation, a lot of times those people become my friends instead of the
that's
opposite.
great.
So that definitely happens. Whereas here, I'm not a Pollyanna here. Like,
Okay.
yeah, no, I'm really not. People go after your business and take your things and do things acting out of altruism that are not. So I don't mean to paint a pretty picture on the world, but I think that really comes out of people's basic human needs not being met, especially their social. So they're all out for themselves, and we have both in us. But I think the really generous, kind one is the bigger one, much bigger.
Well, that's amazing that you make that distinction. And it just sounds like, I guess, would you say that like here more in the West, it sounds like you're saying people are more like uprooted and like more
Yeah.
fragmented and just like, unfortunately just not in very healthy situations. But in other places, it seems like there's almost this like human to human understanding where it's like, even if we have issues, I'm still going to take care of you.
Yes, and I think a lot of that is due to the lack of transience,
Huh.
actually. Because if you know that you're going to still see that person in 20 years constantly on a daily basis, you have to work that out.
Mm,
And in addition, the rest of the community, even if it's just like a village in Europe, the rest of the community, if someone acts out of line, you get smacked down. Not by the person that was hurt, by the community.
okay.
Right? Because if
Yeah.
people start acting out of line, that's a problem for everyone. But in our current society where it's very transient, people are moving constantly. It takes a long time to get to know someone and someone's
Mm,
character. It actually opens the door more for the worst side. And even if it's a small percentage of our population that acts in that way, it has more of an impact in a broken social structure than it does in communities that are staying in the same place.
okay. And it sounds like we could get people in the West who are, more transient. They can get away with it more because it's like they're here and then they're gone.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the con men operate. It's a huge
Yeah.
problem. Yes, yeah. I think, well, yeah. I mean, it's not a huge problem. It's not like illness, but it's a thing. So I do think you have to be a bit more cautious here or take time to get to know someone. Whereas in my travels, I really didn't find that.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this
Sure.
one, but
Fire away.
take us to the most life-changing conversation you've had. What was the best piece of advice you received throughout your life or your career, whether it's from a mentor or friends or, whoever you happen to be meeting in your life?
Wow. Um, okay, this was advice I was given when I was very disabled and very down. It came from a scientist. And he said, if you look, and he pointed at this plant across the room and at this table in the room. He was like, if you look at these items, they look very solid, don't they? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, they're solid. And he's like, well, your illness or any life situation, you could apply this to anything. Uh, a business in crumbles or the loss of a loved one, whatever it is. Um, that looks very solid too, doesn't it? Which is why it's overwhelming. And the world will tell you that these things are solid, right? All the doctors will tell you this diagnosis is incurable. This is deadly. This is exactly what's going to happen over this amount of time. There's no solution. But when we look at this plant and we look at this table, the atoms from each of these, they're not touching. They're shooting all the way out an entire football field away. There's all this space in between. And in that space, that's where the magic happens. So nothing is solid. And don't ever have so much hubris to think that you know what will happen. There's infinite possibilities. I would say
Love
that.
that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
got the chills when you said that.
Yeah, because there's endless ways to heal. There's endless ways that the world can open up. And I was just talking to my friend, one of my best friends from growing up, Shauna. I'm about to go speak at Burning Man, which is super random.
Wow, that's
I,
actually super cool though.
I thought it was really cool too, and very novel. And
Yeah.
she's like, Mary, can you imagine what your 10-year-old or 13-year-old self would think if you knew that you were going to speak? You just don't know what's coming. And so often when you leave space for the impossible, uh, the most fun, unexpected things happen.
I
Yeah.
love hearing that. Leaves me with so much awe. And where is the Burning Man that you're speaking at?
It's outside of Reno. I've never been to Burning Man before, but it's a big like cultural thing, and I'm going to be speaking on the male-female hormones and why so many relationships are kind of like flashes in the pan instead of growing in sexual interest,
Mm,
growing in respect, and that goes down to the hormones and how we interact with each other and in society.
that's so cool. I didn't know they have like opportunities for talks like that at Burning Man.
Neither.
So cool. When is that?
I leave in 3 days.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
Maybe I'll come through.
Yeah. You should. That would be so fun, actually.
Yeah,
You let me know if you want to try to come. I can see what I can do. No promises, but I can try.
yeah,
That would
totally.
be fun.
Um, okay, so what's been your secret to self-improvement over the years? How have you been able to get better in terms of knowledge, in terms of perspective, in terms of people around you? What's your secret to self-improvement?
I don't think about it. I don't think about it, but I will say, I mean, I think a good humbling every day is always a good thing.
Okay.
Well, those are the ways that you can get humbled. I think when we think we know everything is when we miss the mark. When we're not curious, we miss the mark. Now, I can't say that I do that intentionally. I have an insatiable curiosity that was probably really annoying for those around me. But so I'm not saying that I sit down and I'm like, I will be more curious. But I do think having a lot of curiosity and uh, giving both the self and others a great deal of grace, being able to see why someone would come from the place that they do, and bringing in fun and presence. And I really mean that, and a good humbling, because I see, when you've been through a really big health condition and you've come out on the other side, it doesn't even matter if you had people around you that were very kind, like I did. You still get very misunderstood a lot. And so that opens the door to you realizing how much else is a misunderstanding
Hmm,
in this world, right? And so I think getting a good humbling each day is so healthy, because it's very easy to get arrogant that we know. And I see a big core wound. I don't think we have to be afraid of our wounds. I think that's where the light comes in. But we tend to want to hide them. And I see a really big wound that seems to be growing a lot in our society, and that is the wound of being misunderstood.
hmm,
And that wound comes from being the recipient of people that needed to be right,
hmm.
right? And so often we will put the need to be right over the care for the people around us. And I think that's the gravest mistake that we can make, especially when it comes to love and friendship. So, uh, so I would say really cultivating so that that comes naturally, that you give people grace, that you don't know what they've been through or what they're going through, but that you trust them, that they're being honest with you. And then a great deal of curiosity, because they're, I mean, humans, our history is just a big old spinning wheel of thinking that we know, and then we're utterly humbled, and no one talks about that, and then we move on, and it just keeps happening. So I think leaving grace for things being needing to adapt, and for truth to adapt, right? Gandhi talked about that a lot. And as the microbiome shifts, I'm really seeing some differences needed in order to get people into remission than worked 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And so I think it's very important that we not be rigid uh, in our disciplines.
That's such a powerful answer. And it just makes me think that like we need to walk around with the mindset that like we know absolutely nothing. And like the thing that I often will tell myself, and like I'm not very good at it because I do have a like a hubris tendency, but is like the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like learning so much. I'm constantly going down these rabbit holes. But what's so fascinating is that, like, even now, like now, I'm not practicing how I did 3 months ago or 12 months ago. And that is mind blowing if you put that on like 10, 14 years. And
Yeah.
it's fun, but it grounds you. It grounds you a lot.
Totally.
Yes.
No, I love hearing that. And then it just kind of goes back to like the fact that we know nothing also just means that there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. So, what's the biggest challenge you face as a health practitioner, and how do you try to overcome it?
Oh, that's a good question. You're asking good questions nobody asked. I like this. Fun. Okay.
Good, good. It's
Hmm.
called the fun section.
Yeah, this is super fun. Needs versus wants. Needs versus wants. Uh, I'm usually giving this speech to clients. Like you have to separate your needs versus your wants. But to be honest, with the microbial collapse that I'm seeing, and with people being overworked, and I work with a lot of people that are uh, what do you call those? They're big people in the world, right? So they're not going to take time off and relax. And I think we really like, I just want to pick every client up and fly them to like Mexico and have them stay in yurts and have their feet on the sand and get sunshine and have people like bring them ice buckets every morning, and like
Yeah.
guide through things every day, because there's so much to healing, and it's so isolating to be
Mm,
sick. And I think the biggest challenge is healing people in a very isolated world. It's a very big challenge because humans get stressed, like I said, when you're isolated, and when you're
mm,
sick, you're isolated. Even if the society doesn't do it to you, you tend to do it yourself because you're uncomfortable, you're in pain. And so darkness, quiet is nice. But we used to always have solariums, and we used to have an outdoor room where people would sleep with screens. And I would love for a place where people can be what they are without hiding it and also be properly supported in all the things. Because if I took the healthiest person that we know and I needed them to do all the things that I get a client to do, they couldn't do it. It's
Hmm,
so much work when you're healthy. And
hmm,
then you have negative energy, literally on the mitochondrial level, and you haven't slept properly in 20 years,
hmm,
and you're, crying over your medical bills, and you have to go to work somehow because no one's supporting you. And all of that, and trying to get them to do those things is a really big challenge. So I would say that's one that I wish I could just like scoop them up and give them a bit of community and have someone else be the discipline for the time
hmm,
that they can just kind of relax from one thing into the next and have a bit more fun and not hide their difficulty, right? I think we like to hide anger and frustration a
hmm.
lot, and justified anger is appropriate. It's appropriate. So I think that would be one thing. Uh, there's definitely a few others. Let me think about that for a minute because that's like a really good question. Oh, got it. Time. Absolutely time.
Hmm.
Like if I had it my way, I would have one client a week because I would spend the entire week researching their case.
Wow.
Yeah, because the more you dig into one case, it ping pongs into like 80 others.
Hmm.
So I spend most of my free time totally nerding out. Like if you saw my back end and the charts I make, it is like it is not sexy, but I love it. And it's interesting to me. So to have enough time to do both, I think practitioners rarely get that. I have that because it comes out of a vocation, a desire, but other people have to like discipline that. And I don't see our health system, whether it's in natural health or in Western medicine, cultivating any time for practitioners to marinate on cases and research deeply, and research into what's interesting them, what's so interesting to them at the time. So those would be the two I would say.
Yeah, I feel like
Mhm.
I would imagine just, clients and general people who are not practitioners, they don't realize how much work practitioners are actually going into
Yeah.
for their clients. Like, and I think you actually did show us a back end chart at one of your presentations that I was lucky enough to be at. And you definitely nerd out and do a ton of research.
Yes, yeah, it's really complicated. I'll give you a third one actually.
Okay.
The third one is, at least with the people that I know, and I can't speak for all practitioners, but I'll speak for myself and the ones that I know. Uh, it is really hard not to help everyone.
Mm,
If I could punch a button, not punch a button, push a button. If I could push a button and have my dreams come true, I would be full on philanthropy. Like if I just
mm.
had like a benefit factor and I could just take care of people as they came in, that would be the most amazing thing because I think maybe it's just as a female or as someone who has been sick, you don't want anyone going through what these people are going through. And so it can get overwhelming as a practitioner because there's like 20 different messaging apps and there's, thousands of emails that come a day. And then every neighbor and every person you've ever met. And if you traveled the world and you literally have 10,000 friends that you care about, but like literally, uh, everyone is asking about their aunt, uncle, and you want to help them. You actually want to help them, but you'll die. And
Yeah.
it's not a natural thing for a care-based field or person to say, no, it's not natural. It actually doesn't feel good. So I think that would be one if I don't know how that would ever be done, but if healthcare practitioners would be more like a foundation, so they don't have to do that part and they can just really show up for people fully. I think that would be really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who's ever met you in person or has had like a one-on-one conversation with you can attest to the fact that you are like truly trying to help people and so empathetic. Like you're one of the most empathetic humans that I would say I met, and I'm sure a lot of people would share that same sentiment.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I think when you go through the fire, it forces it, honestly. Yeah, you can't not see yourself in someone else after that.
Amazing answer. Okay, so if you could spend the day with one influential figure, dead or alive, who would it be?
This is fun. Um, I have so many actually. Uh, well, right now, I think Terrence Howard is amazing.
Okay. Who is that?
So interesting. He's an actor, but he's also a mathematician and he's like
Oh,
80
wow.
other things. He's incredible and he's very creative and he thinks about things very differently. But he's extremely eloquent in the why behind his findings. Brilliant mind, brilliant on all levels. And I think he's amazing. I'm on this Minnect app where any random person can ask me a question if I have the time. And I was right next to him like for like multiple weeks and I was like sending my friends, snapshots. I was like, look.
I think you did post that on one of your stories, and I was
I'm
like, I don't know.
proud. It's like the first time I kind of like fangirled someone. But yeah, I really like people who can look at the world that we're all in and see something else. And that's what I see from him. So that's very cool. Uh, I wouldn't mind meeting Charles Mingus, who
I
was
don't know.
yeah, he was a 1950s jazz musician, a
Oh,
bright big,
cool.
but lived a very unique life, traveled all over Northern Africa and had these epic shows. He would be another one for sure. I think right now oh, Genghis Khan,
Oh, yeah. That's
definitely. Definitely Genghis Khan, yeah. But actually, I would put him third. Very unique person. He brought in all the cultures and he really studied them. I read this before going to Mongolia. I read this 700-page book multiple times that he had
wow.
commissioned his doctor to write on all the medicine from the entire empire, which spanned from, Persia all the way over to Eastern Asia. And it was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating. I liked how he was a collector of knowledge and he was more than open. He was fascinated by
Mm,
how other people did things. Yeah.
amazing. Is the second gentleman you mentioned still alive, the jazz player?
No,
No.
it's
Okay.
not. He died a long time ago. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's still a band that copies his work, Mingus Among Us in San Francisco. I don't know if they're still
Okay.
going on. It's not the same. It's not the same. I mean, you guys are awesome. I don't mean that. I just mean like I would like to meet Charles Mingus.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. So if you have one guiding principle that you could leave with our listeners, what would it be?
No, we have to go back. I've got another person.
Oh,
Now you got me
okay.
thinking. Now you got me
No,
thinking.
I love it. Please go. I mean, I feel like I'm being introduced to people too, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are as well. So,
Top of the list is Rumi. I
oh
would love.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine hanging out with Rumi? You can end up spinning and doing the awesome dance, but also the deepest philosophy and the deepest love and the most magic. I mean,
I
who
think
sees more magic than him?
yeah, we would all be like changed humans if we had
Yes,
that opportunity.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Anybody else?
We'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have one guiding principle that you would leave with our listeners, what would it be?
This would be such a different answer at different times. But right now, my answer for that would be uh, to find what brings you joy, not happiness,
Hmm.
and to do that every single day. So I'll define that because people can define words differently, and that's valid. Happiness to me is conditional. It's based on the circumstance. Joy is that kind of like bubbling up wellspring of what makes us light.
Mm,
And so I would find those things that make you feel joyful. Most people, if I tell them to sit down and write down the things that they love the most in life, are not ever doing those things or
hmm.
things they wish they would have done when they were younger. They can be cultivated now. So, whether it's like singing or dancing or art or whatever it is, I would say do those things because as we don't have the tight communal bonds as much as we did before, of course, there's exceptions, and some of your listeners will have that, but for the most part, um, uh, a lot of joy that I get going to the tribes comes from the eye contact and the giggling with children. Like it's so much fun, and the hand holding with everyone and all the community, but we can't rely on the outside right now. And as a communal species, that really puts us in a pickle, right? I mean, if you think about how elephants can die from loneliness,
Oh, this was
it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart at the thought. And we're not that different. So I would start to cultivate feelings in whatever way works for you. Like for me, it's like painting and sewing and dancing and baking. It might be
Mhm.
something, it's definitely Phoenix, right? It might be
Yeah.
something for you, but I would actually schedule that into your day as important as your diet, as important as your sleep schedule. Because if we aren't laughing and if we aren't feeling purpose through joy, humans really struggle to heal.
That's such a beautiful answer. Okay, so now we're getting towards the end here. When it's all said and done, Mary, if it were to end tomorrow, how would you want to be remembered?
Oh, I don't care. I don't care. I really don't. Yeah, I'm so sorry to give such a terrible answer, but I genuinely don't. I don't go for legacy. I think we're forgotten so quickly in just a couple generations. I think that's not our purpose. And when I see legacy be sought after, it's usually by people that have done a lot of harm, and then they like create museums so that the world thinks that they're good. And
Interesting.
yeah, I think I just don't care. The people that are around me know how much they mean to me, and that my memory will die with them, and I'm good with that.
I absolutely love that answer. I was not expecting it, but I love it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna stop recording.